Previously on Chat 62.
Did you face any kind of challenges over there while at CEB?
I think just adjusting and fitting in was like the biggest challenge because it's, you're learning a job, you're meshing into, get forced into a small group of people and you got to either fit or you got to fit in and do your part. And I got pretty lucky because it was a pretty good, cool group of people thinking back on it all. Like I can still remember like there was Corporal Cervantes and I think Lucier was there too.
Brian
he was
Lucier.
there before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I still talk to him every now and again. So it was like Lucier, Starjack. It was fun.
Real quick before we start, we've streamlined our contact info. From now on, if you have any questions, feedback, or ideas for future guests, just shoot us an email at chat62podcast@gmail.com. That's chat62podcast@gmail.com. All right, let's fucking go. We all know the Marine Corps has a way of throwing us some unexpected challenges. You went through some tough times during your time at the PAC, including a stint at the Brig. If you're cool to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about that part of your journey and how it shaped you into who you are today.
When I look back at that experience, it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me at that time because I was, blossoming into a man. I wasn't yet 21 yet, but I had a fake ID. I was having a lot of good times. And so it was like me and Lance Corporal, if you remember him, he came from like 3.5 or something too. And when we consolidated, maybe 3.5 or 2.4, it hooked us up with a couple dates when we were doing the Marine Corps ball in Prim, Nevada. And this was shortly after we had all consolidated too. So this is like why it kind of really sucked. But we get over to Vegas. We're all partying in the casino. This is like the night before the ball, and we're all pissed off our dates, and they left. And so, like, whatever, we're in Vegas, we're gonna have some fun. And so we did. We met 2 other chicks that were like really cool, and they were like, "Yo, we're on the 3rd floor. We'll leave our door open for you. We'll be your new dates tomorrow." And thought everything was perfect. So this is like 4:00 in the morning, and we've been drinking all day. We went up to the 3rd floor from what I can remember, and we found a door that was left open, but it wasn't hers. And so we thrashed the room and took everything. Like there was a suitcase in it. We took the suitcase and just being dumbasses. I remember throwing the shit away in like the back of the casino that night, and there was a laptop in there or something. So fast forward, like we sober up the next day, like, fuck, I don't even know what we did last night, but we thought we were Motley Crue basically, and just destroying shit. And unfortunately we were drunk idiots and we destroyed somebody's property. But anyway, we fast forward, we go to the Marine Corps ball, everything's a great time. We get back to base after the whole weekend. And as soon as I get back to my barracks room, they're like, Master Sergeant Frias is looking for you. And that was top, man. He was like the Don. If he was looking for you, that wasn't good. So I remember having to like check in with the duty, and Frias came to base and was like, "What the fuck did you do?" We had to meet him in his office, me and Kurdark, and it was all caught on camera.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so like I got to see it too, but I'm wearing like a Hawaiian shirt and I'm leaning against the hall and like, outside of the hotel room, and you're all throwing shit out of the hotel room. And I just grab a bag and I just start walking. And so I got charged with a conspiracy to commit larceny and burglary because there's a laptop in the bag. So it was over like $500 value. I ended up went back and met the guy and apologized to him in person at the casino. They took our pictures. We weren't allowed back in Prim, Nevada. Like we were banned from there. Yeah. Then they turned us over to the military, and that's when I got court-martialed. And that was kind of shitty because it was like all in November when it happened, obviously at the Marine Corps birthday. I didn't actually go to my special court-martial until February of the next year. So there was like 4 months of, I went to AA. I had to like apologize in front of the whole battalion. I don't know if you remember that, where I stood out front and had to say I did a dumb thing. And I brought shame on the Marine Corps. I actually wrote a letter and I still have it. I have a whole binder of that shit.
Wow.
So after I got caught and everything was done and I knew I was going to court-martial, I, started changing my act. I went to AA because I was under 21. So they said, oh, you can use that as an excuse. You want to say you were just impaired and peer pressured because Kurdark was like 24 or something. And I didn't want him to get in any more trouble. So I was like, no, it's my fault. So I went to AA and I tried everything I could do to make myself look like a better person than I really looked for doing, such a dumb thing. So when I went to my court martial, I just told them to do whatever they felt was necessary. I just wanted the opportunity to finish my enlistment.
So you threw yourself at the mercy of the court?
Yeah. And the cool thing about it all is, so I basically did, mercy of the court, and they gave me what they did, 4 months confinement plus the 2 months of restriction. And so it was the worst, like, Humvee ride of my life. So basically you go to court, which was kind of like one of the other flat top, kind of like the pack. If you were like legal, was way down at the end of the road. If you were heading like north or south, going towards like MCT. After we went to court, they put like a flak jack on us and a helmet, and they drove us from there all the way to the Brig in the back of a Humvee. So you're just back there bouncing around, not knowing what you're going to get into. And the Brig it's every bit of prison, man. They put you in a little cage, they strip you naked, they check every orifice on your body, and then you're put in, like, I was in a squad bay with like 16 other prisoners, and that place is really crazy. It's like big. Doesn't look big, but it's big. It was fucking a rude awakening for me. The cool thing is, like, with all the stuff I did prior to going to confinement, by doing like AA and therapy and going to church, First Sergeant Fletcher, I don't know if you guys remember him, he like wrote a letter for me to the warden, and the warden, like, I only spent like about a month on the hill in the actual Brig. The other 2.5 months I was there, I was in IC. I was like a minimal custody prisoner. So I got to play basketball all day, lift weights all day. And I had a job from like 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock every night. I got picked up, taken to the commanding general's building, and I buffed his floor. It was like a mile of floor. But it was an awesome job because I was out of the Brig, and I was still wearing an orange jumpsuit, but whatever. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, like therapy in a weird way. I read a lot, worked out a lot, and I was like in my head a lot. That's kind of where, before I got in trouble, I was kind of like, yeah, I want to dye my hair pink and pierce my nipples, fuck the Marine Corps. But when I was in the Brig, I kind of like realized I could really screw myself if I don't do this right. Nobody wants a dishonorable discharge, and I really wanted to be a Marine. And so having First Sergeant Fletcher write a good letter for me and stuff, I came out, and I think, I like to look at it, I got promoted more times than most staff NCOs because I went to Lance Corporal to private, back up to Lance Corporal. I even did like a couple meritorious boards, which I wasn't successful on and win, but I did okay after the Brig. So it was like, well, I take that back. So when I got out of the Brig, I went on restriction, and you're not supposed to have girls in the barracks or hard alcohol. Like, no girls after 10, no hard alcohol, period. It was like I turned 21 on restriction. I remember a bunch of friends came over, a couple girls. One was my roommate, Sam Ochoa. Somebody told on me that I had girls and hard alcohol in the room. So like we were hiding them in the wall lockers. I think it might have been, no, it wasn't. Gunny Tezak was on duty, and he had to come up in my room and like search my room, and found girls in my wall locker. And poor Sam Ochoa was just sitting there in his bed, this timid little guy. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, guy. I can't get him to cuss, but here I am like partying, and he's just trying to sleep. And so after that, I got NJP'd, and they added another 14 days to my restriction. So I did 74 days on restriction after like 120 days in the Brig. And all that changed me, because after that, I kind of like wanted to get promoted. I was pretty good at my job, and I liked being a Marine, and I wanted to stick it out. So that's like when the switch turned, and I started taking it serious, I guess. And
during your time in the Brig, did you harbor any anger?
yeah, man, that was an interesting adventure, dude. Like when you first get there, they put you in like what's kind of like block, you're in a receiving barracks. And I remember there was like this guy that kept like throwing his shit out of the feed tray, or like causing the shit to flood. He always like was making this scene, and you could just hear him at night like yelling, even though he was down the floor. Like it was multiple levels. Like it was weird, like how it was shaped. and multiple levels, but you could hear him a level down, just screaming all night, banging all night. And like the first week, it just kind of like fucked me up. Like it was scary. Yeah, I think the first month was really scary. You get up in your squad bay, you basically, your uniform is your orange prison uniform, but you still treat it like you would your camis. Your boots still have to be shined. You still have to have like, you know, you still iron your orange jumpsuit. So you kind of get up, you go get marched into chow, and then they march you out to this worker's yard where you basically sit and wait to get picked up for working parties, whether it's like weed eating on the side of Pendleton, or I ended up getting a job. My first job was washing clothes with this old guy named Shapansky, who always wanted to ask what I was in there for, but would never tell me what he was in there for. But it later found out it was like child molestation type stuff. Yeah, there was like rapists, child molesters. Everybody at Camp Pendleton Base Brig is somebody who's got charges that is less than 5 years. If you're like over 5 or 7 years of a sentence, they take you to Leavenworth. So like there was, you know, rapists and bad dudes there waiting for trial, and it was a rude awakening. It was kind of like, dude, you can, even though what I did was pretty minor to get me where I was, like it was a kind of, you know, I realized then that like that's nothing I ever want to experience again. And there was like, I remember one of the guys that was actually in minimum with me, he was in there for like beating a guy almost to death. Like he got 5 years for maiming a guy in Okinawa. And it was, you know, the guy looked like he was every bit of somebody who could do that to somebody too. And I remember just eating chow, and he'd be on the other side of the table, and I'd just looking at him, like trying not to like let him see I'm looking at him, but just because I'm scared of him and like interested at the same time. Like, fucking don't want to mess with you, bro, but like, don't mess me up, please. So it was interesting. It was good. It was a good experience. I made it a good experience, I guess. I turned it around. I started lifting weights a lot when I was in there. I gained a lot of weight. I feel like I came out a different person. Then I went in. I was young and immature and dumb and not thinking about my actions. And then that like taught me that like, you know, there's consequences for everything you do. The fact that like Fletcher kind of had my back, and there were people that like, you know, Tibbers, you know, Chief Warrant Officer Tibbers was a big part of my rehabilitation too. Like he believed in me. I got letters of recommendation from him talking about, because I was fucking private walker forever, you know, and I'm surrounded by like people who are corporal or like, you know, I had been in longer than them, but I'm private. Like Quentin Smith, he liked to make me lock my body. Fuck that guy. But, you know, it was, I fucked up. I had to learn, I had to come back. And that was like the hardest part, I think, is, you know, even though rank wasn't, you know, Lance Corporal wasn't much, it was all about how long you've been there, and being a private surrounded by like your buddies that are Lance Corporal, and, you know, but I'm a private. Again, that was rough.
Was it a humbling experience?
Yeah, it was a humbling experience. It made it all like mean that much more when I did advance and start picking up rank again. Like, you know, like I said, I got promoted more times than a lot of NCOs did, you know, 6 times.
It is
So,
actually,
no,
well, like you said, because it's part of growth, right?
Absolutely. You know, I don't have any long terms from it. Like if you I still have the same re-enlistment code. I'm RE1A. Like none of that followed me over. I think Kibbers had a lot to do with that. The only thing my DD-214 says is like, I don't even know if it brings up the time lost. It just says I went in August and I got out in November or something. You know?
So when you say you stayed in a little bit longer than 4 years, that was because to let you finish the 4 years type of thing, or
I had to make up time lost.
the time lost?
So
Okay,
Time lost in the
every
Brig,
day. Yeah. All that day, all the time I was in the Brig, they tacked on to the end of my enlistment.
Wow. Okay.
So it
Wow.
was, you know, kind of cool.
That was,
I got to
yeah.
make it up. Yeah. Except when like August of like 02 came around, I'm like, fuck, I would be getting out right now, but I got to stay here for 3 more months. It was hard too, because like, you know, how fast things changed in the Corps. Like we had just gotten like PAC was kind of like a thing now, you know, we were running. It was smooth. We had been through like one MCAT inspection, or no, maybe that was after. But I just remember things were like, I had a good job. I had a good flow. Like it was like, we had like a job, you know, and then I did that. And then I went to the Brig and I came back and like half a PAC was new. And I was that guy you're that guy that went to the Brig for fucking being a douchebag at the ball. Yeah. So that was rough.
But then
That was
everybody that
rough.
knew you're like, no, but he's cool. He's cool. You know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I ended up like, it was great. Yeah.
It helps shape one, who you are, two. The struggle back then, you don't know. They just give you hell for it. Like, you go to the Brig, it's over. Your
It's
life.
kind of like the Scarlet Letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have that.
I had the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to follow you, and you're never going to succeed. And, you know, it's going to be a horrible experience for you, and you're going to be miserable. I didn't know the full extent of what happened. I just know that something went down, you know, and then
Yeah.
I hear those, you know, the names being called, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't cool. And then you're gone, you come back, but then it's like, it was cool. Like, I just remember you guys going through like to get promoted faster. I remember you guys were just like squared away. You guys were standing in the hallways waiting to get interviewed because they were trying. And that was like, I think, a good thing looking back at it now, because where we came from, that's progressive discipline right there. Letting you learn from your lesson, going through the experience, and not really reprimanding you to the point where you're going to be discharged with a dishonorable or whatever else that could have came with it. Right. The fact that they let you is amazing, you know, and
Fletcher, we weren't that close with headquarters company. I mean, like, they were down there, and I did something obviously that, you know, wooed him enough that he like thought like this. He basically said I called me like a hot shit Marine worth a second chance.
yeah.
And so he knew I had like a little fire in me, and I made a mistake, and I was ready to remedy that mistake and not let it define me. And that's kind of what I spent the rest of the Corps doing. I mean, I wasn't that motivated that I wanted to do drill or anything, but I did one meritorious corporal board where I had to go and do the knowledge test, the uniform test, the physical test, and I marched a group into a bunch of parked cars. You know, I tried, but you know,
You did.
looking back at
You
it,
did.
yeah, we did it. I tried. You know,
Well, you
I
see,
did
you don't-
everything I could.
But you see, that's things that you don't hear. And these are good things to hear, to let people know that there are good leaders out there that will give chances, you know, and not saying that all the leaders are bad out there, because they're just their leadership style. But if they really look into, you know, what's going on, you know, dig in deeper a little bit and sort of like, okay, how can we remedy this? See some sort of positive outcome for this Marine to be successful, then amen. This is great, you know? So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. And
We were all so young and impressionable, dude. We were all like,
Yeah.
you know, I was a lost kid. Like the first, you know, like year of the Corps, I was like with Brooks and Jones. I was buying Jordan shoes. I was coming home when my parents were like, "You're talking different." I'm like,
Yep.
no, I'm not. Yo.
Yep.
What's that? You know, I was so impressionable that
You wore the do-rags. I remember. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I did buy the Jordans though. Like I remember. Did I
Yeah.
wear the do?
You did. You would. You did once walking in with them. You did.
Oh, I believe it. I was that bad. I had the sport and wave stuff, and I was trying, bro. Oh man, I remember coming home and my mom's friend was like, "Are you a wigger now?" I don't even know what that is. No, the boys won't
You're
like that.
Yeah. Yo. No.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was rough. Being roommates with those guys. I ended up having like a beef with them, with one of their buddies, which I bet if I could think up his name, you would probably remember him. But he like stole a pair of my shoes. And,
He had a little mustache, right? A little,
Yeah.
I know
yeah,
you're
a
talking
little
about.
wiry guy,
Yeah.
a little fucking smart ass
From
fucking
Supply.
guy.
I think he was from Supply.
Yep. And they were like, even though Brooks was like cool with us, he had like that brother code where he couldn't tell on his friends. So it was like, I was like, all right, I'm done with you. And I ended up moving into a different barracks room with Razor and some other guy from the construction office. I don't know.
After the Brig, did you deploy at all?
I did not deploy, like never went. I was at Pendleton the whole time doing the grind. The Brig, I got, I was supposed to go on one of those deployment, remember when we would do when one of the battalions would deploy, we would send deployment support teams with them or whatever. I was supposed to go on one of those, but I had a kid and I didn't end up going. I think like Staff Sergeant Croft or somebody ended up putting Wrangle or something on that instead of me. So I got lucky, really. Not that I got lucky, I guess, but I didn't really. I stayed in San Diego the whole time. It was a real rough enlistment, getting trapped there. But after the Brig, yeah, I got out of the Brig and had I went to the Brig. I think I had been in about 2 years at that point when that happened. So when I got out, I had a couple of years, and that's when I met, I think, the lady I was with at the time, and drug stringer up to Chico so he could meet his wife. Yeah, that part of my life started. So I was a different person then.
By the time you were done with restriction and your extra duties, around what month was it?
September 23rd is when it ended. It looks like per my restraint muster record. September 23rd of 2000 is when that ended. And then I went back to normal duty, I think.
What was that like?
It was a little rough at first because, you're a senior Marine and, like you recall, everything changed so fast there. It was like new faces every other day. And so I went to the Brig for 4 months, came back to a complete new world. There was a handful of guys that I, been with since I had been in there, but a lot of new faces. And I was this I was a douchebag that fucked up at the Marine Corps birthday and totally disgraced the Marine Corps name by being a Marine and partying a little too hard. It was kind of rough. I remember they moved me in with Quentin Smith, and he was me and him just did not get along. So it was kind of rough. I remember I was kind of pissed off. I was over a lot of stuff at that point. I wasn't really sure. I'd gone through the Brig. I was kind of turning my life around. The restriction was really hard on me. And so, just being a Marine every day is pretty hard. Then you got I couldn't turn it off. I had all the way until about 10 o'clock every night. I had to check in. I had to be basically belittled by senior Marines, some of which had been there less time than I had. And that was a real killer. Because you remember, everything is about seniority.
It's about rank.
Yeah, how salty looking your camis are and how salty you are and rank. So being a private and I've been in longer than a lot of those guys, but really Quentin would try to make me lock my body and stuff. And private, and fuck you, dude. So I kind of had a little bit of a hard time there with that for a minute. But then it's I don't know what really happened or what clicked, but at some point I just didn't want to be a fuck up anymore. And I kind of was starting to enjoy the Corps more. We had a good team. It was a little more fun. It wasn't as gnarly as I guess I thought it was going to be. Gunny Sutton or Staff Sergeant Sutton at the time was a little intense. We PT'd a lot, but it was like a job at that point, So for a few months, I think also Kibbers was really good to me. First Sergeant Fletcher was really good to me. Master Sergeant Frias, he was on the tail end of things then now, but I really wanted to try and kind of not be a kiss ass, but kiss their ass and show them I could be the guy they thought I could be. Yeah, don't lose hope on me. I'm not a shitbag. I'm not the 10%. I'm okay. And it started to work. Everything was good. I got good in my job. I remember we had a MCAT inspection shortly after that when we were entering SRB crap till late at night. That's actually what ended up eventually helping me do a meritorious corporal board was staying late at night in the office and entering SRBs and doing minute diary clerk shit. And so that was kind of your attaboy for that. Oh, good job. We're going to put you on a meritorious. Fuck, I can't do any of the other stuff.
So around when did you feel the tide started to turn for you and things started to look a little better?
Shortly after, I got probably a few months after I got off restriction, I ended up getting a better living situation. I think that's when I moved in with John Wrangle or somebody. And Wrangle was kind of a good friend to have. He was pretty motivated and cute little kid. Yeah, it kind of became, I was working out a lot. Okay, yeah, now it's all coming back. I was lifting weights every morning with Nikino and Shoemaker. And those guys were pretty cool to be around. They were both a bunch of meatheads and really strong, and both of them were pretty motivated. And so it kind of I guess not to dog her, the friends I was hanging out with, but they were like more into like partying, and they weren't really taking the Corps serious. But like when I was hanging out with like Wrangle, you know, really becoming, you are who you associate with. I think I just I found myself a better crowd eventually, and that's when like me and Nikino were actually roommates. That's who I was living with, was Nikino, and that guy was cool, man.
You still keep in touch with him?
Not really. Like we did for a little bit through like social media, but
Matt Nakino, right? Matt
Nikino. He was like a freaking wrestling superstar and like the nicest guy in the world.
He played the ukulele. I remember that. Like he started strumming the ukulele and he was learning it there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was so cool. He was motivated too. Like I remember in our barracks room, I had a futon, and like we had the beds like in a bunk bed, and he had the bottom bunk, and I had like the futon right next to it, and we were like always just hanging out watching movies way too close, like the way we were like. But he was a super nice guy, and yeah, you know, you just kind of become you are who you associate with, and being around people that were a little more into the Marine Corps and motivated and cared about how their appearance was and how their performance was kind of rubs off on you, and it became contagious. Lucier was pretty motivated too, but he's crazy. I still talk to him a lot.
He was quiet. He was very quiet.
Him and Starjack, they like that heavy music and like shaking their heads. Yeah, he's kind of messed up. He's got a lot of physical problems now. Like he had a Harley he was riding for a while that he sold because he can't ride a motorcycle anymore. It's like it's got like back or neck and back problems, and yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm getting older and everyone's getting so beat up. But yeah, I had a better crowd, you know, and it was easier to do a good job when everyone around you was like, that was the normal, I guess. And, you know, the Marine Corps was awesome. It kind of was. Like, you look back on it now, like when you're in there, all you want to do is get out and dye your hair, pierce your nose, tattoo your face, or do, you know, whatever, all the stuff you can't do.
Get frosted tips.
Yeah, you know. Look like In Sync or 98 Degrees.
I can confirm nor deny that I did that. So
yeah, I did too. I totally did too. Immediately like grew facial hair because like, you know, when I went into the military, I didn't even have to shave because I wasn't even like growing facial hair. I was so young. Yeah, so it's funny though. Like you're in there the whole time, you want to get out and do that. And remember how like they always threaten us with the civilian world, oh, the nasty civilians, and they were kind of right on a lot of that, you know, like the unorganized, no camaraderie. Like it's cool now. We're like, there's a guy that runs the warehouse where I'm at that's in the Marine Corps, and we just he was a Marine as well. So we kind of just have this really cool relationship at work, and he gets it. But yeah, you know, like the unity that we had when we were in, like it was a lot. It was awesome. It was fun. I really, to this day, wish I like stayed in sometimes, but it was a different time when we were in too because of 9/11.
That brings me up to my next topic. So we're entering into 2001. What does the Marine Corps look like to you as we're going into 2001?
It was a cool job, man. Like at that point, it was like a good job, you know. Like I was living. So like shortly, like towards the end of 2000, I ended up moving with a buddy down into San Diego. We had like an apartment and it was rad. I just had to be at base at a certain time, do our job, and then go home. And if we had training or like hikes on whatever, I was there. It was like a really cool job, you know. Got to like had plenty of libo, and then yeah, 9/11 happened. That changed everything. That like made it, you know. I don't think I was living off base as much at that point, or at least not for a while. And
so you were still in the Corps?
Yeah, I was still in the Corps. Yeah.
So take me to that day. What does 9/11 look like?
I was at Camp Horno doing the rifle range. I was on the 300-yard line, and we were all getting like snapping in, getting ready to like send rounds down range, and we noticed like all the workers and stuff from the firing range were all huddled around like the duty truck, and you could tell they were like talking and listening to something, and then they did like a stop. They made everybody kind of like pick up their gear and told us basically to report to our command. So we all like got our shit together, had no idea what was going on, got back on the bus, drove back to San Mateo, and got in. God, I want to say like we all went into either one of the offices, and someone had like it up on like either a computer or a TV. I can't remember how we saw it. And that's how we found out what was happening. But it was crazy, man, because it was like pretty early in the morning, and we were all like, you know, you got at the rifle range at like 5:30. We had already been shooting for like 2.5 hours. And then they just did like stop, told us to stop training, report to your command, and everybody just scattered. That was like gnarly because you don't know what's going on. That's like the worst thing about being in the Marine Corps is like we all joined for the main reason of like being, you know, serve our country. And until that very moment, like it was just a job. It wasn't like there was no worry of like doing anything crazy. And that immediately changed everything. That was kind of like a smack in the face. Like my mom was like freaked out. Everybody was. We, you know, at first we weren't all like that worried that we were going to go anywhere, but it was like shortly after that that like it became, you saw like 3-5 or one of those battalions leave right after. It was kind of like, wow, this could be real fast. And
Right.
it was. Yeah, it was sad because, you know, we all like had been in for a long time. The best thing about the Marine Corps, which not to talk about politics or anything, but at least like when we went in, we had a really cool chain of command. Maybe I think Clinton was in office when I was in there, but you know, you learn your chain of command, and history was huge, and it was like, you know, pretty awesome. You know, like all these old past leaders that like, you know, served their country and were glorious and worked up to be the honorable Mr. President or what, you know, commandant of the Marine Corps. That was really cool to me. I don't know where I'm going with that one, but it was crazy at that time because I remember actually Bush was the president.
Yeah, Bush was. Yeah, I can remember when they're whispering in his ear when he's like reading to a bunch of kids in kindergarten, and you just see his face like shit. He doesn't know how to react. I mean, I don't fucking blame him, you know.
I don't think any of us did. It was so scary and real. And
so what was going through your head? I mean, like personally, did you think?
Yeah, I think we all kind of thought that. Because like the whole time, like we were at the 5th Marines, and like I always, you know, the history was what was so cool about like the Marine Corps, and like I wish I could remember as much as I did then, but like, you know, fighting 5th, they were like the badasses. So I always remember when I first checked in, I like, you know, I was pretty up to speed on a lot of Marine Corps knowledge at that point. So checking into first AEB, I thought I got it. This is cool. I'm like with the construction crew, and these are like we get to watch the badasses from the sidelines. So then once we all consolidated, it got a little more scary. Like, shit, I got to go, like, not to be like we were ever less, but we were pogues, bro. Like, we were pogues. Those were the badasses when we were the pogues. And then all of a sudden, we're like living in the same barracks as them, and we're like doing their payroll and doing their training. Like, you know, a lot of the shit they did, we did. We just had extra duties afterward. They went and worked on cami netting and cleaned their weapon. We went and did, like, reports and unit diaries orders and stuff, you know, like they were the badasses. So once we all kind of merged with them, it was like, wow, like anything could happen. So as soon as 9/11 happened, it was like, you know, you kind of knew who was going to get called. It was going to be one of those guys or those battalions. And so that was a little scary because I had at that time too, like, oh man, my daughter was like, no, I want to say she was pregnant, or I had started, gotta start remembering when I got married because I'm divorced now to her, so I can't really remember, but I want to say we were either married or getting married right around or before 9/11 happened. So it was kind of like that was scary. I was like starting a family, and then this kind of stuff was happening where in my mind I was on the tail end of something, gonna ride it out, enjoy the rest of my enlistment. Then that happened.
Emotionally, did you feel torn between, hey, I'm starting my family, and then, you know, and I still have my duties as a Marine?
100%, man, 100%. And like now it's crazy because like I like was just thinking about this the other day, like talking to my old lady, like we didn't have choices, like when we had to leave or we had to go places, and it's like we just said bye to our ladies or significant others at the time, and we did our thing. But now it's like that would be so damn hard for me to do, like, but you know, bless those guys, man. Like they would be able to be ready to go within a few hours and on their way. And that was like fortunate. Other than all the training that we had to do, I remember we were hiking a lot more. We were doing a lot more PT. there was a lot more, I guess, pressure on everybody. We did a lot of like, I felt like whenever we had downtime, they would make us get our gear ready down on the basketball court, like we were going to deploy. And so we did that several times, like had to be ready within a certain minute, show that your gear was prepped and ready and you could get it in the, you know,
Right.
ready. You know, we did that a lot, but you know, most of it was like seeing everything go wrong around us was like kind of crazy. It puts you on edge because you're like surrounded by
A lot of movement.
a lot of movement, and like, you know, a lot of things were, it was a scary time because, you know, that was, you know, what they did, the terrorist attack on during, you know, on the World Trade, that was horrible. And we were in war after that, basically. And watching people get ready to go and do the shit that, like, even though we had done all this gnarly training to prepare ourselves as best as we could to be in that kind of situation, it never felt like we would ever have to do any of that. It was like, kill. Yeah. Like, you know, my mom never liked that. Gee, they make you say kill all the time. That's so violent.
Right.
You know, kind of what they're teaching us to do here, you know, by the number.
Yeah.
Blood, buried, you know, the fact that it was like happening was like really kind of crazy. And wasn't it like one of the battalion, like 3-5 or something, wasn't them that were like the first to like go into Baghdad, and weren't they the ones that like drug the statue of like Saddam through the streets or something? I remember it was like one of those battalions that were like the first to go and actually went into Baghdad. And so I always remember, and I always tell people, like, I always felt a little okay because like those guys, I remember we were on the third deck up in the barracks, and you'd look over the edge, and those guys in their free time they had their gear out, they're working on like cami netting or like their gear and making it better. And it's like we were drinking beer, playing PlayStation, being dorks. Those guys were like, you know, they wanted to be the ones with be the first kid on their block to have a kill or something, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what they trained for that whole time.
totally. They were badasses, man. Like, you know, I don't, you know, at that time, like when we were young, I think I could have done it. But looking back, like, I couldn't imagine if like I went into the Corps as an infantryman. Like, those guys were just a little too hardcore.
Yeah, even the guys that were Pogues.
Yeah, you're like, I could have done it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, back then we were pretty unstoppable. We did some pretty cool stuff if you think about it. You know, even though we were like Pogues, like we had Gunny Sutton. You know, nobody else had to deal with that crazy lunatic. I mean, remember that guy?
Yeah.
Like, he would run 10 miles before he made us run 10 miles. All the time,
Yeah.
like, if you guys don't beat me back, we're starting over. Like, I remember puking like so many times, just trying to like not be that guy. You know, that was, you know, I was thinking the other day, like I was always decent with the physical stuff for the most part, but like not really. You know, like I just never wanted to be the guy that finished at the end or had to do remedial. So I'd push myself so hard that like, you know, like it fucks you up like down the road. Like I got shin splints and like so many things that I just like kept quiet because I didn't want to like, I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't want to be the guy, you know.
You
like,
didn't want to be that guy.
yeah, they're gonna fuck with me and call me a pussy, or you know, say I can't do it. I'm gonna have to do remedial. Like that's like what ended up like hurting me in the first place. Like right after 9/11, when we were doing like one of those forced march hikes, and it's funny too because like I'll forever remember Larry Vang because it was his fucking ass. Like he couldn't like carry his pack or something. He needed help like putting it on his back, and he like. So I'm like trying to help him get his gear situated, and it just like I had my pack on and trying to move his pack. I just jarred myself. Really weird. I didn't know it at the time. I kind of felt like I pulled something, but we got all the way back to the parade deck in front of headquarters battalion after the hike was done, and they like released us to like go clean up and report to our office or you know our command. And I went to get up, and it just my back just didn't work like it was supposed to anymore. And ever since then, man, I've like, you know, I'm just, yeah, it's weird little things they made us do that
you're like 80% leader.
yeah, for real. You know, like, well, you know, it's not even like that bad. It's like just it's bad enough that where I get like spasms, and some days, like you know, like you, I can throw my back out really easy. I got a 4-year-old. I like try to catch him when he's running by, and it's like, oh, okay, funny, you know, like. And the worst part isn't just like the pain that comes with it. It's kind of like the mental side that follows it. That like 20 years of like kind of pounding into your head that like you can't, I can't do certain things. Like I used to love riding mountain bikes and motocross and like motorcycles. And now like I know if I'm going to get on a bicycle or any kind of bike for that matter for an exterior, you know, I'm going to feel it for days. Like I go ride, have a killer bike ride for like an hour. But that means I'm going to have 2 days of walking like a gangster, but not a gangster. I'm just like got that old football injury walk, you know?
Invest in a crip walk.
Crip walk, you know? And so now it's like, it fucked with my head a lot. And then it was like my kids were getting older and I felt like I was letting them down because I couldn't do, let's go do this, let's go do that. And I'm trying to keep up or do things. And it's just like, you know, little things kind of slow you down. And the long-term effects of being a fucking Marine that whooped my ass over time. And I'm still grateful for it all, but like, yeah, you know, sucks.
And we were pogues. Imagine if we would have been infantrymen.
That's what I'm saying. Those guys were badasses, you know. My buddy Lance Corporal Olson, the guy that was in my, you know, he was the one that brought the alcohol and the women in my barracks. He was at Horno for a while. And then he got transferred to like.
He was bringing you some motivation. He was bringing you some inspiration.
I had been in the Brig for like 60 days. I needed that motivation too.
Meanwhile, Savage is rocking back and forth and shit. Like
Remember, you know, it's funny. I heard you had like Sam Ochoa on this the other day, and he was like cussing a lot. And I just couldn't help but like laugh and smile because I kind of think that night too I was an asshole. I loved Sam. He was so rad since day one, but you remember how cute he was? He wouldn't curse and stuff. And like, he was such a proper, polite young man and had this big family that he helped take care of. And I remember being drunk, like, come on, say fuck, say shit, Sam. I won't. No, just say it. Shit, fuck, come on. He wouldn't do it. He was just better than us. He wasn't, but he was just a good kid. He was a good kid. So yeah.
Because I know it wasn't too much longer after that, right? I mean, that you were after September 11th, that you seen people get in, you seen people stay in, or new people coming in.
Man, remember that? Like, I think I did about a year and a half. I got out in November of 2002. So I did about a year and 4 months after 9/11. But I remember like, it was kind of like motivating and inspiring in a way that like, remember how like the new joins picked up like after 9/11, you started seeing people like more and more were coming to serve their country. And we're kind of like, you know, that was pretty awesome, I thought.
We also saw stop loss, you know, for those staying in, and you probably saw it more staying in longer. You know, after that,
it was kind of weird when you saw like, you know, being able to look and see your EAS go to 0000. Man, it might have been, that's when my daughter was born. So she was born March of 2002. So Emily was pregnant when 9/11 happened. So, okay, that's all makes sense. And it's crazy too. I actually got out of a ticket because after 9/11, they weren't letting us like live. We weren't really like, I don't remember why. I got a ticket doing like 110 going up to the 5 to see her. She lived in Chico. And so I was hauling ass, got a ticket, and I never even went to court. I wrote a letter to the court and said, due to training and 9/11, I don't get to see my family as much. So I was eager to see them and speeding. And they were like, don't even worry about the ticket. Thank you for your service. I would have got like some reckless, you know, driving, or I was doing 110 in a Ford Taurus. Just
fucking Ford Taurus is fucking shaking and shit.
Yeah, totally. It had like a governor too, so it wouldn't go any faster. So 110 slow down. But yeah, that was so that's right. So that was kind of cool. We saw a lot of people coming in, and that was kind of frustrating and stressful that whole last, you know, year. Having my daughter kind of like changed everything. My oldest, she's now doggone however 23. Yeah, that changed a lot. Like, you know, everybody, when you have, you know, you get your first child put in your arms, everything in my life changed. Like, all of a sudden, like, I knew where I needed to be and had to be. And I unfortunately missed out on like the first 6 to 8 months of her life, really, because we were so busy and I couldn't. They lived in Chico. She actually moved down with me for a few months before I separated. And we lived in an apartment with a buddy in San Diego. So, yeah, it was kind of hard because, you know, I had done what I did, you know, getting court-martialed and NJP'd, but Kippers, I think, pulled some strings for me. And I still have like the same re-enlistment code as probably you all, an RE1A. Like, there's nothing on it. I have like, I should find my DD-214. I was looking at it the other day. Like, it doesn't say anything about court-martial. It doesn't say anything negative about, like, so I could have re-enlisted. And Kippers was trying to push me into doing that towards the end, like kept joking with me, you should think about it. But at that time I was so scared with everything going on. Like, I knew if I stayed in, I was going to have to go overseas, like,
For
right
sure.
away.
Yeah. For sure.
And I was going to be like on one of those next deployment support teams. And for the last year, it was kind of cool because like that was my job. Like, I think like one of the first, it was like you and Lucier and like Kevin Lopez. And didn't you go, Almanza, over to like Okinawa or something once?
I went to Okinawa. Yeah. It was before all this went down.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was from,
I remember like we do like 6 months, you know, and I was like helping do like deployment support team, and that was like interesting because
yeah, it was almost like everybody, if you were going to stay in longer, you were almost expected to go. You know, again, I was just, Matt Martinez is the one that signed me up. So it's like, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll go, you know, so I didn't want to. Nobody really wanted to, especially if you're from California. I was like, and being that I was from LA, it was like even better because I knew I could get a ride home every weekend from somebody going through. So it always worked out until that happened, and it was cool. Like, I don't regret it now, but I did miss out on a lot. There was a lot of changes that took place, and I think you probably would have experienced that when you went in, like left for a while and then came back, you know, and saw some different faces all of a sudden. Like you said last time, a bunch of new faces, some changes have happened, and it just feels weird because you have to acclimate yourself back into a new environment that you once knew.
Yeah, it's like that pack thing, you know, you got to blend into the pack and find your role again. Like, dude, that was my spot. I did this. Like, fuckers, I was a working party that helped build this building. And
Right.
Some boot ass kid, like, you know, yapping at you. But yeah, we had an interesting group of people for sure. Weird though. You think back on it, we had a pretty solid, you know, like I can still remember everybody's name in our little like area, you know. I don't know. To be honest with you, I miss a lot of that so much. And like that was the biggest regret I think I still have to this day. Like, I don't think I could have physically long term done it. You know, the Lyndon 23 years ago would have told you he could and probably tried really hard. But like, you know, I bless those guys who do it because it's, you know, the military is a hard, you know, you don't just go to work. You go, it's a fucking process. Every day is a process.
24/7.
It's a culture.
It's a culture. Yeah. You know, I could not be as disciplined as we were, you know, like I'm like fucking shave every other week or, you know, like if I can shave twice a week, dude, I'm on it, bro. Like I remember every day, like having to shave, iron your camis, spit shine your boots, a haircut every fucking Sunday. Like that was just to be like, okay and normal and not get your ass up in trouble. And you like, you know, having to like wake up every day and run every day and deal with fucking Sutton, bro. Like I could still hear him telling me how big his abs are. You know, look at him like fucking egg rolls, Walker. Goddamn egg rolls, goddamn it, like egg rolls, goddamn it. Look at that fucking Akabashi machine. You know, like he was so cocky and he could do it. Fucker guy was a monster. But that was like hard, you know. Like I like to hike. I'm a big hiker. I walk every morning. I get up and I do a 4-mile walk. And so you'd think like the way they walked us in the military is way different. You know, like I don't have 100 pounds on my back with some guy making me like walk faster than is possible and up hills and yelling at me. You know, like
you're not having to like pull dead weight, basically. You know, like for example, bang. Yeah.
Bang. Exactly. You know, like Great times, man.
He looked. I remember he looked pale that day, and everybody needed to support him one way, shape, or form. You know, but that's Vang.
Yeah, it was Vang. Yeah. I gave him like one time because he lived in Sacramento. His family did, and I was going up to Chico, so I gave him a ride to his house.
He still does.
He still does. He was awesome, man. His family was really fucking nice. They were like very appreciative that I gave him a ride home, and they all came outside and met me and greeted me. And I go, thank you.
All right, so you're approaching towards the end of your enlistment. Obviously, well, not obviously, but they didn't put you through any kind of stop loss. They didn't zero out your EAS. Okay.
They did for a little bit.
Okay.
I only think I experienced that for like 6 months though, and then my EAS, because like that was when I found out about my time loss, because it was my normal EAS until 9/11. 9/11 happened, and then they changed it. My EAS was like now like 4 months later down the road, and that was like Staff Sergeant Alert, who had to explain the stop loss to me, that I had to make up my time. And I was like, it's kind of like when I found out the closing for my house is actually a week later. It was like super depressed. Like, wait a minute. Oh, I got to be here 4 more months. And all the people that I had kind of like checked in along with, like Almanza, he was checking out. So then I was going to be like the only one left from the old guy that our cycle. And yeah, because you were like only a month or so before me, right? Like at CED.
Maybe like July. So I was July. Yeah.
You're nearing your separation, and you're seeing your buddies check out, and you're having to deal with the time loss. What are those months? What you said it was an extra 4 months, right? Some change.
Yeah.
What were those months like?
I think like of the crew, I guess that when like I had been with for the duration of my enlistment, yeah, everybody was really gone, and so it was a little rough. Like I kind of found myself like I was living off base at the time, I think, with my buddy, and so I didn't really have to spend that much time at base without like a lot of familiar faces. But I spent a lot of time with like Staff Sergeant Alert when I was there. He was really helpful, and like I got a lot of wisdom from that guy. I don't know if you remember him. He was kind of like the staff NCO for the new joint side there towards the end. Black guy, super nice. I later found out he's got like a giant rose farm in Texas. Like kind of funny how these alter sides of these guys that you thought are like these gnarly Marines, and then outside they're like,
was it Master Sergeant? It was Master Sergeant Pierre, right?
I think you're right. It was. He was like, you're right. He wrote me like a killer. I actually called him like when I got out, he wrote me a really nice letter of recommendation. So like towards the end, I spent a lot of time like with him, Kibbers, like when I was there on base, because it was there for, duty or PT or whatever. And so like I spent a lot of time talking with them, and Kibbers was always like trying to nudge me into reenlisting. So I was always kind of on the fence of that. And Alert was, he was more like telling me like family. You just had a daughter, your heart's not in it. You gotta figure it out. So I really I got a lot of good stuff from him there at the end. And he wrote me a really good letter of recommendation, which I used when I got a job like 20 years ago. And I ended up calling him right after and thanking him. And he was like in Texas. He's got a whole armory. He likes guns and roses, literally guns and roses. How ironic. So, but it was cool. Checking out was a really weird time because like, you're really excited to check out, but you're really nervous. Like it's kind of like when you got out of high school, you didn't really have any, you're worried about where you're going to go, what direction. All I knew was I was going to check out. The military was going to move my stuff from here to Humboldt County where I was going. And from there, it was up to me. And I knew I had money to go to school, and I was starting to figure that out, that I wanted to go to college, but it's kind of scary because like as hard as the Marine Corps was, it was solid and it was consistent and it was dependable. That's the first thing I realized I didn't have when I got out, was like something like that I could depend on. It was like now I had to make it happen and find a job and support my family and make it happen, not be told. In a way, the Marine Corps was great. It also kind of enabled you in a way to like not fully be able to like,
So getting out, was there any formal going goodbye? Like, you know how we would all celebrate? Did they do anything
we all
special
went
for
down.
that?
I think we played like softball down at like San Onofre Beach. San Onofre. Yeah, I got a cool plaque which I can't find since the last time I moved, but it says, for 4+ years of service. So I always thought that was kind of clever. Cool. It was sad, man, because I'm so jealous you guys get to go back there and see it. I will one day. And I think I'll be super sad because looking at your all's videos from your last trip, it looks so different. I really like those memories because they were fucking cool, man. We had a lot of fun there. It's weird though, because it wasn't fun. It was a job when we were in, but when I look back at it, it's like, God, I could see myself doing that. Then I'm like, I couldn't, but I want to. It was fun, man. We were kind of like badasses in our own way. We were. I don't know.
Yeah, we need to do that again, Omanza. We need to try to make schedule another trip down there.
Were they receptive of you guys? Did you?
Dude, it felt like it kind of felt like we're invisible. I was waiting for second looks, especially when we were down at the main exchange, and they were walking past us like nothing, dude. I saw so many Marines with no shave chits, especially the brothers. Oh my God. Yeah, dude, they were in competition with Almanza.
Even the lady Marines, they had no shave chits apparently. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it was weird, dude.
Jones got the no shave chip because he would get those white bumps so bad. Remember
oh yeah.
Mike Anderson, remember that guy? Anderson, he's from fucking Mississippi or something.
Yeah,
I remember he had him really bad on his neck one time, and I remember being in formation and right behind him, and that's all I had to stare at was
I want to pop him.
I know. They're are they little
bubble wrap?
And he just sit there sweating right in front of me. My name Mark. Oh, that guy was something else too. I gave him oh God, that's crazy. These are people I haven't thought about forever. It's good shit, guys.
And a good thing we're jogging those memories, man.
Right.
That wraps up part 2 of Lyndon Walker's journey. From the high of the Marine Corps ball to the harsh reality of the brig, Walker doesn't hold back. He owns his mistakes, and he shares the price that came with them: confinement, restriction, extra duty, isolation, and a whole lot of time to reflect. But that time also gave him clarity. When he returned to the pack, he came back different, not just as a Marine, but as a man trying to find a better path forward. His story isn't over. In the next episode, we'll hear what came after being court-martialed, how Walker fought to rebuild his reputation, his discipline, and his purpose. Thanks for listening to Chat 62. We'll see you in part 3. Until then, stay the course. Semper Fi.
Brothers and sisters at arms, are you struggling with your mental health? You are not alone. There is help available. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is there for you. Call or text 988 to connect with a trained crisis counselor 24/7. Do not hesitate to reach out for support. You are strong. You are loved. Semper Fi.